Hello everybody, welcome back once again to your favorite fucking channel. We're back, but we're back without any intentions to play today. That is so freaking fucking sad, but anyways, it's the way it is. But okay, here we are. We're going to be working, but this is not going to be like the other fucking stream where we were just working completely in silence, because I really don't feel like I'm going to be making those streams like really well as usual, as I was expecting to. Honestly, I don't know. They feel okay, but I think the real value in this crap shit place is to talk, you know. I think that is the most valuable thing, because honestly it's quite I don't know, you really need to take advantage of every piece of every minute of your stream to try to keep up with everyone. No, I'm not really trying to compete against anyone, but I try to do my best, as you guys know. So fuck, what am I doing? So pretty much the main intention of the stream, I would like to talk about a video about a guy that his channel has a lot of fucking subscribers. It's 3 million subscribers, and he's Healthy Gamer GG. This guy is awesome because I think he's a psychiatrist in the US. And he talks about certain gameplay. I think I'll be using this one. Let's see if this works. I'm going to. Oh, it looks fantastic. I'm going to place that thing on here. Just give me one second. I'm just going to place this one over here and this one on top. And I think it looks good. It looks good. Yeah, it looks freaking fucking good. Well, it like kind of a... It's not a... Yeah, I have that. I have it. That's it, you fuckers. So is this guy over here? I'm really sure that it looks fine. And actually I need to like adjust a little bit this one, because I don't have any intention at all, guys. Do you see what my how the fuck do you call these ones, the tabs, the things I have for? And also I really need to close that one. So okay, so definitely so this guy, it's really funny because he talks about this kind of a modern topics that are about that are primarily about mental health and everything, but like surrounding this not precisely about the gaming community, but the people that tend to have this kind of habits, that they are locked down and shit. So they're kind of in a lockdown, you know. So pretty much that's what he's talking about. So welcome back. Let's see what Healthy Gamer GG has to say. So okay, let's go. I think you guys...
Alrighty, chat, we've got a spicy one for you today. So as we all know, dating, relationships, loneliness, isolation, mental health, all of these things are getting worse. And if you turn to this place called the internet, what you'll find is that there are a lot of contrary opinions. The one thing that we're all sure about is that we are right and everyone else is wrong. So we're going to take a look at a couple of tweets and try to figure out what on earth, from a psychiatric perspective, clinical perspective, human perspective, is going on right now. So here's the first one. Wow, it's bleak out there for some people. What happened to these guys? I can't remember the last time I talked to a girl that wasn't a coworker or just doing her job. The hardest decision of a man's life is choosing between the 6 out of 10 who loves you and the 9 out of 10 that you actually desire.
What?
If you told me COVID killed 80% of people under 30,
The hardest decision of a man's life is choosing between the 6 out of 10 who loves you and the 9 out of 10 that you actually desire. Okay, we're that is kind of rough. I think it is. I think there is okay, let's go back. Let's go back.
The hardest decision of a man's life is choosing between the 6 out of 10 who loves you and the 9 out of 10 that you actually desire. If you told me COVID killed...
Okay, let's see if he elaborates a little bit more on this on the first two tweets.
Killed 80% of people under 30, I would believe you. They're in hiding. Food delivery destroyed their presence in public. I know 2 women. Talking to women is mental torture. I talked to my female cousins and aunt today. Literally same, bro. Real. I've never done it.
Okay.
I assume that they're talking about approaching women. So then this person, Fask, said they missed the last boat. Once a guy is out of college, he's more or less stuck with whatever his job and hobbies provide, which typically isn't much, and is walled off due to HR issues, even if there are women to chat with. I get that this boggles older guys' minds, but that's it. So
okay, so basically the statement of these people on Twitter is that on X is that, well, it's kind of a more complicated to go out there and to meet new people, So it is really interesting because yeah, it happens, but personally I think it is that it's one's fault. You're the only guy who is guilty of not knowing more people. But because honestly, yeah, I know that is way harder right now. I would say that is way harder because we have an online life. And pretty much there were some people that were really used to be in their houses as if it were a lockdown, because actually I would say that we really make how to say it, we discovered that for a really big amount of people on the entire world felt more comfortable staying at home all the time, and that would have happened to everyone if COVID didn't if actually COVID wasn't existed, you know. So pretty much we discovered that we're really comfortable at our houses without going out to hang out with someone, with our friends, or even to work, thanks to COVID itself. So it is way harder, but I think it is not impossible. And pretty much you remain the guiltiest guy to not be able to meet new people, you know. So pretty much I think that's what I think. But I know that there is a bunch of statistics about this, and I know that it's kind of hard nowadays to do so, but it is not impossible. And the thing is that the first step you have to take, it will be on you're the first one that is guilty of not going outside and meeting new people.
This sort of started a really spicy Twitter exchange where a lot of men out there are sort of saying, like, it's very hard to talk to women, HR gets mentioned, and then there's all kinds of responses, okay? I'll beat this on a dead horse until the boomers and Gen X folks learn that the world they dated and married in, dead horse, HR gets mentioned, and then there's all kinds of responses, okay? I'll beat this on a dead horse until the boomers and Gen X folks learn that the world they dated and married in within is long gone. Dating is different. Socializing is different. Standards are different. Oh, and the boomers did no one any favors by being insufferably selfish too. A lot of guys decided very early on that they'd rather just be alone. It sucks and they know it feels sucky, but because they haven't learned what a relationship even is, it is easy for them to just not pursue one at all. Combo that with boomer divorce misery examples, and voila, I'm not quite sure what that's referring to. I find it hilarious that the lowest IQ people can't parse that I'm not talking about myself. I'm part of the older generation watching my sons navigate the stupidity that is currently mingling and dating. What worked for me doesn't exist any longer, or is entirely...
He is right. He is right. We really need to find our own way as Gen Zs to pursue relationships, because and actually I would say that it's even easier to do so, because you can reach a lot more people through the internet that, for example, on your parents' days, in which they clearly have, there is pros and cons. You have a lot more easy access to a super big variety of people, and it doesn't matter if they're on your city, on your town. You pretty much can have relationships with anyone around the world. But of course the cons is that you have such a big amount of options that is sometimes kind of frustrating to know how small and how small you actually are, you know?
Online now. And so when this person posted this, people responded, right? So here's presumably a young man who kind of says, whenever I see posts like this, it's always a good reminder to me that the internet is not a good source of information. I'm a normal looking guy who works out sometimes, runs sometimes, and goes out semi-frequently. I meet and talk to women literally everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, such as church, bands, bars, hobbies. This is proving my point. If I were to suddenly find myself single and childless and used what you listed, and I'm in the suburbs of a big city, I'd have my pick of divorcee 40-plus women to be sure, so my age group. If I were single, childless, 20-something, same pickings. So we're starting to see something a little bit different here. People are struggling to date. It appears to be that more men are struggling than women, and we'll get to some statistics.
Always. A man always will have a hard time trying to be in a relationship with a woman. Always. It is always going to be like that.
About that in a second. And there seems to be like this really, really bizarre disconnect where some people are like, I haven't talked to a woman who is not a coworker or for a professional reason in years. And other people are like, it's just easy, bro. Just put yourself out there, right? I go to churches, I go to bands, I go to places, I learn how to socialize, and then it's like not that hard. And we see that it's not just one person who's saying this. Why don't people just go to a bar?
Just give me 1 second. Some fucker is just beating the shit out of a wall, and I don't know if it's in my house or is in another place. Just give me 1 second. Fuck, is my fucking neighbor, he just beating the shit out of something. He's just fixing something right next to the house and to my house, and fuck shit, he's a lot of shit.
Or a university club. And we see that it's not just one person who's saying this. Why don't people just go to a bar or a university club, events, whatever? I'm in NYC, so my perspective is skewed, but it appears that there are tons of beautiful single women everywhere. Hell, talk to someone on the street or train if you know how to do it. Okay, so like some people are like, okay, like I get.
Okay, probably that would vary from country to country, because I don't know how safe you actually feel on for example, in the US. I don't know how comfortable. Probably it will depends whether you are in a really big city or in a smaller city, but pretty much it's kind of weird to get that first approach to someone, you know. I'm the kind of guy who thinks that pretty much it is better to try, instead of like a cold call, I don't know, we can call it like that. It is way better if you try to create a bond, or to try to create a bond with with a stranger. For example, if you are at a restaurant, it will be like way more easier. If you're let me give you an example. No, let's say that you're waiting to get inside of a restaurant. The girl right next to you is pretty, and you want to talk, you want to have a chat with her. Pretty much you can say, oh, I heard this place was fantastic, or something. It's not like a cold call. You're trying to make a bond, to create a bond, to have something like that can take that conversation, to make that conversation to begin to work. So pretty much is not actually, because that is the same advice that anyone that a handsome man will give. Oh, just approach to her and talk to her, and you'll see everything will be fine. No, because also that the first thing that everyone will look, or that everyone will pay attention, it will be on your physical, on how you look. Later on, you have like 5-10 seconds to actually create some kind of connection with what you're saying.
That things are hard, but go and socialize. And then some people are also like a little bit more critical. Online most of their pubescent lives instead of interacting with society, easy access to pornography, low testosterone, right? So a real science bro here. Average 18-year-old has the testosterone levels.
Okay. Online most instead of interacting with society, easy access to low T average is just turn. Okay.
The 65-year-old. This is unprecedented in society. There's a huge divergence in political leanings happening in that age group. That's certainly true. And then women are weighing in too. So do these guys just have no free will at all, completely at the mercy of their circumstances?
Okay, I think this is a chat in which we only, as men, we need to try to find an answer, because pretty much a women's opinion, it wouldn't be like the all women's opinion. So basically, I understand that they can give us some advices, but honestly, I think it is something we really need to try to agree on that we need to have a general agreement of what exactly do we need, because pretty much we are not trying to like to someone is not to actually, how can I say it, if you want to like someone, that doesn't mean that you have to completely be submissive to that person. You don't necessarily need to have the same to accomplish every single to accomplish every single one of their requirements, because it is not a grocery list, but you need to have, there's some basic things you really need to have in order to go out there and try to participate in this big party of meeting people. So I think we can elaborate a little bit more on that. But actually, I think at least for the other tweet, let me go back a little bit.
This is
for example, this one. This is kind of a straightforward, because you only require to remove this kind of immediate pleasures on the internet, because you are not going to have the same amount of excitement to go out there and try to look for someone. And I don't like to say to go out there and look for someone, because you actually don't need anyone, but I mean to go and look for new experiences. So of course, being a fucking wanker and just stay at home every day just watching pornography is unacceptable, dude. You really need to diversify your sources of pleasure, and one of them definitely needs to be go out there, hang out with someone, or at least trying to meet new people.
This is unprecedented in society. There's a huge divergence in political leanings happening in that age group. That's certainly true. And then women are weighing in too. So do these guys just have no free will at all, completely at the mercy of their circumstances? And so this is kind of what we're starting to see in this trend, where there's like a lot of people who are struggling to connect with other people. And they're getting all sorts of ranges of responses. The first is like, oh, it's actually not that hard. Just put yourself out there. The second is like, what's like, do you not have any free will?
Okay, yeah. He's making a recap of what
All
we
sorts
were
of
saying.
ranges of responses. The first is like, oh, it's actually not that hard. Just put yourself out there. The second is like, what's like, do you not have any free will? Oftentimes, like, you know, people on the internet will blame them for being losers or whatever, like having low testosterone. And then we also have like women who are contributing. I don't know if this is a woman or not, but like people who are contributing in a more like potentially helpful way. If you have a genuine platonic friendship with women, they will try so hard to set you up. The problem is that these guys don't see women as people who they could be friends with, right? And that, I think, is like...
That is a piece of shit comment. I'm not going to elaborate more on that one.
True, like the first part. So like the women that I know who are in relationships love playing matchmaker. So I think that that could be a piece of the issue. But I think a huge problem here is that people are sort of making assumptions about other people's experiences. And so here's another take. It's very difficult to start a social life if you lose a social life. It kind of has to be continuously maintained. And when the pandemic broke that chain of continuous in-person gatherings, a lot of people just couldn't come back.
And not necessarily. I don't think that it is like if you do not try to keep up with your relationships, you're going to lose everything. It is more that you try to maintain what it was important in that relationship. Now, for example, in your friends, for example, let's take as an example your high school friends. Now, probably you're going to have really different lives than them, but at the end of the day, there will be something that you really need to consider. Do you really need to acknowledge of what exactly is what supports that relationship, you know? Because for example, we can try to have like the same hobbies. You probably studied the same thing as him. Probably you guys are colleagues, or probably you have a lot of friends in common, or you know, there should be something that supports that relationship. Pretty much that is like the most important thing to maintain, because I have friends that they doesn't even live here. They do not live here in my they live in another country, and they come like every 2-3 years, and honestly I feel the same about them. They're great friends. The friendship is still there, and it doesn't matter how long it will take for me to see them again, the friendship, it will remain the same. So pretty much I think that is not true. But what is important, and how we previously mentioned, it was that there are a set of things that you really need to have in order to try to create more new relationships, to meet new people.
This, I think, really leads...
And we're going to talk about this in a few minutes, because I don't know exactly what this guy will say.
Us to what I think is going on. And the answer may shock you, but what we're really seeing here and now play out in front of our eyes is natural selection. Adapt or die. Hey, y'all, if you're interested in applying some of the principles...
No, I'm not interested. Thanks. Oh, fuck.
And start your... The people who are sure they're right and 100% sure that the other group is wrong. Some people look at the world today and they say that dating, meeting people, you know, boys, men have it really, really hard. It feels really, really impossible. And then there's another group of people who's just like, okay, it's not too hard for me. I just started going to church or going to hobby clubs. And by the way, man, do you not know how to think, or do you have no free will, or are you just victims of your circumstances? So it's almost like we're living in two separate worlds, which I think is exactly what's going on. It's almost as if the advice that one group of people gives literally doesn't translate over into this other group of people. And both of these groups are really confused because one group is
Well,
saying,
I think this is a really good advice or a really good symptom that you're wrong. If you're completely sure about what you think, it is really probable that you are not right and you are missing a lot of info. A good symptom that you're doing the things right is that you're really sure about 90% of what you think, but there is also 10% that you are not really sure about it, that you are a skeptic of what exactly is going on with that. And I think that is a really good symptom, that you're doing the things right. So, oh shoot, that's a really good symptom. So of course both are wrong, because I think it is a more let's say a more complicated it's a really more complicated, there are a lot more complicated connections in order to solve this dilemma.
hey, if you do XYZ, it's actually not too bad. The other group is saying we did XYZ and it doesn't work at all. How can we explain this? So let's take a look at Darwin's finches, okay? So in the Galapagos Islands, Darwin went there back in like 1835, and he found that there were different finches with different kinds of beaks. And what he noticed is that each finch has a beak that is already adapted to a particular kind of food source. So some of the beaks are all about like cracking nuts, and they're very like short and hard and can create a strong kind of vice-like effect. And other beaks are small and sharp. They can kind of get underneath leaves or get inside little grooves to sort of get at bugs. So we have like the nut cracking finches, and then we have the sharp beaked bug eating finches. And I imagine that if you put those finches on Twitter, and something happened where one of the groups of finches had no access to food, let's say all the bugs on the island disappeared, I imagine you'd see exactly what we're seeing on Twitter right now. Because the group of finches that is able to eat nuts is like, I don't understand what the problem is. Just squeeze down harder, and then you'll be able to find.
Yeah, and of course also is that we don't have like a lot of empathy, because of course if you have a really good looking white dude that he worked out every day, and probably he's not really brilliant, but at least he's like adapted in the social requirements to get a partner. Of course you're in a big disadvantage, because I'm also really sure that the stupidity of every single one of the people takes a really big role on how you are actually performing in the society. Because of course being wise, being smart and trying to be a better person is way more important than being good looking or only to have a really way bigger social value. But the thing is that if you think that one thing doesn't require the other thing, you are not really smart, because you really need to understand that workout to be a good looking person. Because one thing is to be handsome or to be pretty or to be beautiful, and the other thing is to be a good looking person. No, if you see someone that is dressed nicely, that he smells great, that he's clean, that he has a lot of topics to talk about, that is a good looking person. Even if he's ugly, like in the general, like in the status quo of the society, he's going to remain being good looking, a good looking person. So pretty much that is the first requirement you need in order to try to perform as the best as you can in the society. So pretty much, of course, you're going to be in a big disadvantage if you want to go hand to hand with this white handsome dude. But pretty much, and at least for my experience, I met a lot of girls that used to tell me, oh, I met that guy, he was a really handsome guy, he was extremely handsome, but as soon as we as soon as we begin a chat, I discovered that he was a douchebag, and well, I didn't want to date with him afterwards. So that is really important. No, the one thing is not going to be the two things requires the being handsome and being a good looking person or being a smart guy. It is always important. You need to have both things. And if you're this kind of a smart nerdy guy and you think that you don't need the other qualities, I think you're really stupid, just as the same as the other guy that is just handsome. So pretty much we really need to change how the priorities we think that people have in when you are looking for a relationship or you're trying to get a partner.
Find the nuts that you're looking for. But this other group of finches that does not have that kind of beak, the way that they were born, the way that they were raised, something about them in the modern environment which has changed is no longer suited for success. This is literally what natural selection is. Natural selection is usually not about adaptation in response to an environmental effect. It is usually what happens is when a natural selection event happens, the people who are already adapted survive, procreate, reproduce, and pass on their genes. Whereas the group of animals, plants, whatever, humans, who are not well adapted to the current circumstances, literally die out. That's what natural selection is. Survival of the fittest. Now, fittest doesn't mean the sexiest or the most ripped. Fittest really means, in Darwin's words, people who have, in this case, finches, who are well suited, fit their environment. And what we're witnessing right now is super scary because it is actually a mass extinction event. Sounds crazy, but this is literally what's going on. There are groups of people who will have no option to procreate. We're starting to see declining birth rates in places like South Korea.
I honestly, I don't think that precise thing that he's saying, that it doesn't have to do anything about with birth rate and so on. I think the most important thing about birth rate is that literally it's completely impossible in today's economy to raise a child. So it's not a lot about attraction. It is more towards how pricey, how expensive it is to raise a child. So, I don't know. Probably in some countries, but honestly, I don't think so.
Fewer people across the globe in general are having kids, but then there is this particular group of people who has no option to reproduce. And now this is going to get a little bit crazy, but as a psychiatrist, I sometimes wonder, do our genes have some way of letting us know that we are not going to procreate? Is there some kind of genetic existential dread that you can subjectively experience? Do we have some kind of internal mechanism that your genes sort of know, like on a deep biological level, hey, we're not going to get passed on? And are our genes able to hit the panic button? And I imagine that if such a biological mechanism exists, I have no idea if it does or not, it would look like exactly what we're seeing. This existential level of panic of like, I have no ability to meet people, to procreate.
And actually, well, this is not like something new, but guys, honestly, do not go hands down to the situation. Okay, you are not 11 years old. You are a grown up. You really need to fight for the things you want. And I don't mean fight that you go on like a big superhero and try to get all your shit together. No, that you really need to try to do something better every day, you know. Probably it sounds like silly, it sounds like real, it sounds like really dumb for me to say it, but we do not require to you to go out there and try to meet 50 people a day. No, just try to make the things, try to be constant, try to keep up with your surroundings, and do not go hands down with the situation.
To have children. My genes and my legacy is dying out. These are people who are not living for something anymore. They're just being slowly extinguished by life. And when I look at some of these posts on Twitter, that's kind of the sentiment that I get. I get the sense of a person who feels like they are dying out in real time. Now, the question becomes, what is this natural selection event? And I think what we're really looking at is COVID. And let me explain, okay? So I used to be someone who was like, if I was 18 years old today, if you took 18-year-old me and you stuck him in the internet today, I would undoubtedly be somewhere on the incel red pill kind of spectrum, okay? So like back then it was like pickup artist, and I was kind of into that a little bit, not so much. But I think that back when there were like losers like me who didn't know how to talk to girls, the world was a different place. The world necessitated some amount of physical contact, regular physical contact with potential mates. Even though I had social anxiety, even though I was an introvert, use whatever words you liked, the world that I lived in demanded that I run into women over and over and over again, socialize with them, learn to socialize with them. I joined a fraternity. You have in-person classes where you have lab partners. I do internships where there are boys and girls. I go to like various like fairs at college, whatever. By necessity, I'm required to interact with women. So in my case, I didn't know how to talk to girls. I sucked at it a lot, joined a frat, went to parties, did all kinds of stupid stuff. But over the next few years, through repeated exposure, I was forced to interact with women, which naturally reduces our anxiety through like some degree of exposure therapy, and I kind of ended up okay. But the world that we live in today, post-COVID, is actually really different. If you don't try really hard, you can absolutely live a life where you do not encounter men or women, right? So I can work from home, I can get grocery delivery. People don't really go to church anymore. We hang out on Discord instead. So the way my path to salvation was like I was forced into these social interactions and other people were forced into social interactions with me, whereas nowadays that's not the case at all. And what we're sort of seeing is the natural selection of COVID. There's a part of it that like many people on the planet died, which is an absolute tragedy. But I think we're seeing another level of real natural selection, not just life or death, but in the modern work from home, dating app-based environment, which people are more fitted to succeed. So in a dating app environment where I can swipe through 1,000 pictures.
Honestly, I think, I know that you guys probably heard good stories about dating apps, but honestly, I think it is a random event, and honestly, it will be kind of hard to nail the situation in which you're going to find your soulmate. And if you ask me, I wouldn't take that thing. I would take it as a resource, but not like the main search engine. You know, I would try to go one-on-one to the people out there, and to try to be as he was saying, that life puts you in a situation in which you really need to get along with everyone. And because I'm not going to talk about the inability that there are a lot of people has, that is to communicate with women, because I think that is a piece of shit thing. Honestly, you have a mom, you have sisters, you have family that are women, and for me that is not something important we need to discuss. But it is okay. You really need to try to be competitive on dating apps, yes, but you shouldn't feel bad if you are not able to find someone there. And honestly, I'm the kind of guy that thinks that you really need to have a lot of things in yourself, and let's enlist these important things you should have to try to go out there and try to find someone. First of all, you need to try to be a good looking guy. I don't mean that you need to be born as the most handsome guy out there, but you really need to take care of your hygiene. You really need to try to dress well, because one thing is to dress with good clothes, and the other thing is to look good to dress accordingly to each situation you have. No, it is not going to be the same outfit to go to the grocery store, and it wouldn't be the same outfit to go out there and to do exercise. Okay, so you really need to nail your fashion, dude, because even if you're overweight, there are a lot of clothes that you can use to feel and to look great. Of course, you always need to try to pursue a healthy lifestyle, a healthy body. So, but pretty much you are not restricted. You know, that's the first thing. That's the most important thing. The second one is to work. You really need to work. Please work. Gives you a lot, it makes you a more matured man, a really responsible man, and also it gives you some perspective of the world, because it is I'm not going to talk about that topic today. Honestly, it's just quite a shitty topic to talk about, people with money or people, privileged people, but the one thing that is really important is that you really need to know what your efforts worth. And I think that is really valuable, because also is going to give you that confidence you require to go out there and to talk to people. Because if you are a guy that has a really good job, a really nice job, you pay your bills, you know how to cook, you are responsible of your house chores and everything, you're going to feel different. Trust me, you're going to feel more responsible about your all the things you do in life will fit perfectly like a puzzle, in which it is going to make you a better person overall. And well, that's the second thing. And the third one is to have some let's say, to be empathic, and to try to be to have empathy with people, because I think the most important thing is to have empathy, because in that way it seems like a really huge concept, but empathy, it is to have the mental skills to actually understand other people. So empathy, I think, is the first thing. Empathy will help you to go along with the conversations you have with weird people, with people that think different from you, that people that has different situations, so all kinds of situations. So pretty much I think there are the three things you really need to work. You really need to work these three things in order to at least try to be competitive out there.
Of men or women, who do you think is going to float to the top? The top 1%, the top 10%. And that's what the stats on dating apps show, that the people who are very physically attractive are the ones who get all of the attention. Whereas in the world that I grew up in, there were not supermodels on Tinder that I was competing against. I was an ordinary guy in an introductory chemistry class with relatively ordinary people to hang out with and talk to. So
exactly. What he's saying is the right thing to do. If you are in an environment in which the girls around you are looking for a guy that is only handsome, you are looking in the wrong place, my friend. So it's not your fault. You really need to have the three things we mentioned before, but you also need to know where you should fight your battles. So that's what I mean. That's what I meant when I say that dating apps are a good environment to meet new people, but it's an environment that requires you to have a lot more skills. Well, not skills, let's say, to have some kind of requirements that in reality aren't really important. You know, so it's not only how you perform, it's where you perform. So you're not going to sing Taylor Swift songs in an opera house, you know. So you really need to choose where you are going to fight your battles.
This is what I think is really going on, is that there's a level of selection pressure of people who are well adapted to a post-COVID world and people who aren't. So let's take a look more specifically at what has literally changed scientifically in a post-COVID world. So the first thing that becomes really important is there's a great decline in adolescent risk behaviors. So we illustrate this behavioral shift by collating and presenting previously published data on smoking, alcohol use, cannabis use, early sexual initiation, and juvenile crime in Australia, England, the Netherlands, New Zealand, and the USA. Okay? So this is a study that is looking at risky behaviors from adolescents. It's really cool because it's looking at a lot of different behaviors from a lot of different places. And what they basically find is that there is an overall decline in risk. And the thing that contributes to the risk the most is we find the unitary trend hypothesis has theoretical and empirical support, and there is international evidence that decreasing unstructured face-to-face time with friends is an underlying driver. So I want y'all to understand this. In the post-COVID world, we do not have unstructured face-to-face time. Even if we have face-to-face time, it is not unstructured.
I don't like that this guy is actually talking about COVID. Yeah, COVID was a big thing about on relationships, but honestly, I think it is only it was some random event that happened. But at the end of the day, probably we're going to end up in the same. We're going to be ending up in the same situation. Probably. In a few more years, rather than the actual time we're living in. So I don't think that will be like a huge deal about that COVID actually changed the way we had some our relationships. It is more that just accelerated the process.
It's planned. Hey, do you want to go through the trouble of lifting yourself off of your ass, commuting to meet me? Because if there isn't, for nothing at all. No, of course not. What are we going to do? I don't know. It's unstructured. No one does that, right? The only reasons we get up off of our asses is if the dopamine that we get outside of these four walls is somehow guaranteed to be greater than the dopamine inside these four walls.
I know the concept of bet, whether it is worth it to go outside and look for the same dopamine you're going to receive on that party, or if you stay in home playing video games. I understand, but honestly, it's not about the amount of dopamine you'll receive. I think it is more about that you need to let yourself be surprised by things, you know? So it's not about the dopamine, it's about what exactly will happen. Oh, let's see what will happen if I go to that party, you know? So that is an interesting thing. We don't have to, we're not afraid of going out there. So we really need to be curious about the things. We really need to try to try to increase our levels of curiousness, let's call it, our levels of curiosity that we have over things. So just let's try to, it's not a risk, it is about curiosity, you know? Because dopamine, of course, you can get some dopamine out of a bunch of stuff, but you really need to be curious. You really need to be interested in things. So I think it's a crisis not about dopamine. It's about a crisis that you don't really wanna. You are really safe with what you already know, and if you're really comfortable with what you already know, you're kind of an ignorant, my friend.
Unstructured face-to-face time is absolutely gone. Now, as unstructured face-to-face time disappears, adolescents and we all become risk averse. The more risk averse we become, the harder it is to take a chance and meet someone. Walk up to a girl or a guy, introduce yourself, and talk to them, right? It becomes really hard because dating, generally speaking, is risky. That's part of the reason that I think dating apps, in a sense, work really well. Let's say have a very high user base because they feel safe, right? So if I'm like taking a dump on my toilet and swiping left or right, like that doesn't cost me anything, at least in that moment. It'll cost me stuff over time. The rejection will pile up. It'll decay at my self-worth and all kinds of stuff. But in that moment, it feels very risk averse. The second thing is it appears that relationships have fundamentally changed post-COVID, okay? So this is a study of intimate relationships before and after COVID lockdown. So for both dating and married participants, scores on relationship satisfaction, love, intimacy, and passion were significantly lower post-lockdown compared with the pre-lockdown period, okay? So this becomes really important too. Because what this literally says, this study is just looking at relationship satisfaction, how much love people feel before lockdown and after lockdown. And married or dating people, they all feel less love and less satisfied. It's just one study. Take it with a grain of salt.
For both dating and married participants, scores in relationship satisfaction, love, intimacy, and passion were significantly lower.
Yada, yada, yada.
But I don't think that have a relationship with what we're saying with dating, you know, because one thing, there are two really different things. First of all, it's trying to get a relationship with someone and being in a relationship with someone. I think, and honestly, I think it is way harder to have a relationship with someone. So no, I think those are two different things.
This mirrors what we're actually seeing is that people, it's like harder to fall in love. It's harder to feel satisfied in your relationship right now. Now, this is also where we sort of get to natural selection because there are some people who know how to avoid those situations, know how to create a deeper emotional bond. There are some people who, based on the way that they were raised and their attachment style, maybe they have a secure attachment style. So like their ability to navigate relationship difficulties is better from the get-go. And many people who struggle to navigate, okay, how do I fix a relationship if it's kind of meh, right? And right now we live in a society where if something is kind of meh, it's like, oh, you can just find 1,000 other people. So abandon this relationship. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to...
Well, that is something, one of the cons about having this window to the entire world through the internet. There was that probably you're not going to get so interested in people if you know that there will be 8 billion people out there. So you really need to take care about you have this macroscopic perspective of things, and you should also have this microscopic perspective of things. It will be kind of sad for you to try to actually understand that you're a really tiny piece, a really tiny grain of sand in the entire ocean, but you can really have a really good life if you know how to go along with it, you know. So yeah, sure, you can meet people around the world, but also you really need to consider that there's also really good people around you. So I heard somewhere sometime in Facebook that there was this image that said, do not waste a good love because you think you're missing out a bunch of things. It was something like that, and I thought that deeply because that taught me that it was really important to know your fucking place, to set your expectations right. And set your expectations is not to be to be ignorant or not to have this big hunger for whatever is outside in the world. It's just to actually acknowledge your place in the world, that you are a tiny grain of sand in the entire ocean, and it's okay, and you're going to find awesome people if you go along with that. If you try to go along with that mentality, you know. So dude, honestly, probably in this life you're not going to be able to have a jack, but probably you're going to find someone that is going to love you a lot. And it's not that this thing is better than the other one, but you should try to do your best with what you got, with what you've got. So keep up, my friend.
Work on it, just move on to the next thing. And I'm sure that y'all will see this, right? Which is like, if we live in a world where everyone is moving on to the better thing, the person who is very physically attractive and can rotate through relationships and has no trouble finding a partner will, like, that's the environment in which they succeed in. Does that kind of make sense? And so this kind of taps into some of this idea that we see a lot, like this sentiment, right? This angry incel sentiment. Oh my God, some guys got all the girls. Now, I don't think that that's like specifically true, but I think we are seeing some actually really scary evidence that they're not entirely wrong. And so there's also data that shows that fewer younger adults are having casual sex. Among young men, declines in drinking frequency, an increase in computer gaming, and the growing percentage who co-reside with their parents all contribute significantly to the decline in casual sex.
I think from all the things they show in this paper, I think the one that honestly I think that it has to do more with the casual sex situation is actually that there are a lot of people on this, let's call it reproductive age, from 20s to your 30s, that are living with their parents. So of course you're not going to have sex in your casual sex in your parents' house, because duh. But I think that is a really important thing to notice. And if you notice, it is the same thing as the birth rate. It is only an economical thing. It is not about a social. It is not a social thing. It is not a social change, or is because of the internet. It's only because we didn't have the resources to even have a peaceful and pleasant life. So if I don't have the benefit, the privilege of privacy, how the fuck am I going to experiment those things? Fuck.
Now, do we need a scientific paper to tell us this is true? So first of all, casual sex is going down, the number of virgins is increasing. And what are the reasons for that, right? So being at home playing video games contributes to that. Now we have alternatives. So back in my day...
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's a hobby. It's a hobby, dude. Of course, if you're playing 4 hours straight in your house and you're not doing anything more, you're having a problem. But if you play 2 hours a day, probably your weekends, there are a weekend in which you want to play the entire weekend, or there are some weekends in which you want to go out with your friends. It's okay. It's not video games, dude. Come on. We're in 2025. This is not 1980, in which people were saying that video games were fucking they're being created by Satan or any other fucking demon. I mean, come on, it's 2025, my friend. So it's not video games. But of course, if your pleasure comes from video games, that is, if your main source of pleasure comes from video games, it's your problem, not the problem of the freaking fucking video game.
I know this was such a huge luxury. You could beat a game, right? So like I used to play Legend of Zelda #2, and like when I played Legend of Zelda #2, I played it and I was done, and I then got bored of it. The games that we play today, you can never beat and never be done with. So we're sort of stuck at home a little bit more. 50% of people under the age of 30 now co-reside with their parents, right? And I don't know if y'all have experienced this or not, but like a huge part of when you're young and like thirsty and have, you know, your early stage relationships is finding a private space in order to gauge in intimate relations. And so like, since we're all living at home with our parents now, it's like way harder to do. So I hope y'all understand like how important this is. This doesn't mean that there are some people who are losers and some people who are winners. What we're seeing is people who are very confused because one person is saying, hey, it's not that big of a deal. It's super easy to find people to date. And another person or have a relationship. And other people are saying it's hopeless. It feels impossible. Now, literally the statistic that I cited was, last time I checked, was 50% of people under the age of 30 are co-residing with their parents. Now, imagine how these two groups experience the world differently. When I'm 26 years old and I meet a girl at a party, if she's like, hey, can we go back to your place? And I say, I live with my parents, what do you
Exactly.
think will happen? Versus if I'm in the 50% of people who are like, yeah, I have a place that's 15 minutes away, we can absolutely go and hang out there. Right?
Exactly. That's what I mean. It is not a fucking problem about if you play video games entire freaking day. It's about that you don't have the privilege of being on your own. You can't. You cannot. You do not have it. So, you know, and it's more, I'm talking about men because, of course, you're going to say, come on to my place. The girl can how the fuck he mentioned it. The girl can still live with their parents, and that is not a problem. But dude, you're 25, you're still living with your parents. It's all the whole society will beat your ass if you're still living with your parents after you go out from college. I mean, you know, that's a lot of fucking pressure. That's a big fucking problem. So that's why there is no more casual sex, because you don't have the privilege to be on your own, and that is only an economical thing. It's not about how society will have been changed throughout the time. No. It's only an economical problem.
Right? Do you all see how one very simple detail?
Because the other thing is that okay, let's make an example. Now imagine that you have the resources to go and live on your own on your 20s. Honestly, I really doubt that you're not I really have I will have a serious time trying to think a reason that is not economical to move from your parents' house. There is any other reason unless it's an economical thing.
No one in Twitter acknowledges. Everyone who's like, do people have any free will? Do dudes have any free will? They don't acknowledge that there are very big fundamental differences for the way that we walk around and we exist in the world. And the last thing that we're going to talk about comes from a website called Date Psychology. I couldn't find any peer-reviewed sources on this. They post polls on Twitter and they just collect people's responses. So here's a key thing. Should you be afraid to approach? Okay. So this is asking women, when someone approached you, what did you do? And 18.2% of all women say that if someone approached them, they reported them to the authorities. And I think there was that weird comment about, you know, that the person posted on Twitter where they're like, and then HR gets involved. So what's going on here? So I think this is another thing that I think is like really, really scary that we don't really acknowledge as much. So this is not peer-reviewed literature, but there is a 1 in 5 chance that if you're a dude who approaches a girl, that you will get reported to an authority of some kind. I think one of the things that's happened now in today's...
No, I don't think that is a big of a deal. I know that people do not have no more patience to talk with people of their school or in the work. I would say more in the work because you're really busy, and I know you always say that anybody loves their work. Okay, you don't want to work. Okay, so so if that's the first statement of how relationships work in the work environment, you are not in the mood to create new relationships while you're working. That it's okay. I understand that shit completely, but also is more about you really need to know where to stop talking to someone. If it's this third attempt in which you're trying to get a nice conversation with Jennifer from the office, man, I think you really need to move on. Stop talking to her, and probably it is going to be better because probably she will recognize that you are not interested in her, and afterwards probably she would say, oh, he's not so interested in me, so probably we can try to be friends. So you don't really need to try to chase people on your work while you're working, but just try to get a no. Just try to be used to get a no as an answer, and not an, and you shouldn't expect to have a straight no, but you really need to understand how the whole environment around that people is telling you that she's not interested, and you should move along. You should move on. Okay, so it's not specifically about that you're going to be reported, or you're going to or someone will call the police, but it's more that you have to be used to get a no for an answer.
Society is that if you're a dude and you approach a woman, there is apparently a 20% chance, right? Data's not perfect, but there is a 20% chance that you will get reported to the authorities. How would that affect your ability to approach people? Back in my day, that didn't happen very much, right? People like, I hit on 100 girls that over the course of 3 years, like, didn't report me to the authorities at all. There's no like authority, like I'm at a party with someone. That's not the experience of people today. And I'm not saying that this is good or bad, right or wrong, that women shouldn't report people to authorities. I think this is where, if you're not careful, you get down like this red pill rabbit hole of saying, this is bad, we should change things to the way that they used to be. I'm not saying that. Okay, so be very clear. What we do on this channel is try to, from a scientific or spiritual sense, understand what the hell is going on. Equip y'all with the knowledge to do the best to deal with the world that we live in. We don't say that this world is good or this world is bad. Our job is to tell you this world is different. Let us show you how, so you can navigate it as best as possible. But this risk is incredibly real, because we also live in a world today where it is not innocent until proven guilty. It is guilty when you're accused, and maybe after you prove your innocence, there's a decent chance that there's a certain amount.
I think that is an off-topic thing, honestly.
About it. So let me start off by saying, like, this is not a answer, right? I don't think that, like, what I'm about to say will fix all of your problems. I think it's way too complicated. But there are some evidence-based things that we know foster relationships in an organic way. So what I tried to do is I sort of looked at this and I noticed that, okay, unstructured face-to-face time is really what we're missing. We're losing our third spaces. People don't hang out anymore. So what I tried to ask myself is, what is the effect of unstructured FaceTime? Can we understand what that does? And can we duplicate it without just having a bunch of unstructured FaceTime? So that's what I'd love to share with y'all today. Okay, so the first thing is eye contact and affiliative signals. So this is going to sound kind of weird, but basically, one of the things that we learn when we hang out with people is this escalation of affiliative signals. The way this happens, if y'all have done this, and if you've never done this, we're going to lay it out for you. Okay, so like when we go to a party, there's this series of affiliative signals, and what does that mean? So this is sort of
okay. That is good. That is good. That is something that I wasn't thinking about. But yeah, there is some. You need to be patient also. Patience, I think, is key. So you really need to be patient, because not all relationships will will ignite in the same way as the others. So you really need to be patient and try to pay attention to that signals that the peoples gave you in order to see if you can increase. It is like playing The Sims for God's sake, fuck shit. So literally it's just like The Sims, of course, kind of harder, but it's the same thing. You should try a few things and see if they work. If those actions are not having the results you're expecting, change your strategy. You need to be active about relationships and how you relate to everyone around you.
It sort of means like, okay, so like if I go to a party and I look at a girl, right? Or so I see a girl that I like, I'm looking at her, and then she like looks at me, and then I look away, and then later she's looking at me and I look at her, and then she looks away. There's this whole dance that begins before I start asking someone out. This is what eye contact and affiliative signals are. If you look at the way that human beings interact with each other, they have an escalating level of engagement before we even talk. So the next time then what happens is I look at the girl, then she looks at me, and then I smile at her. I don't look away, right? And I'll like raise my drink. I'll be like, here's to you. And then she maybe smiles, maybe she laughs. And then what happens is like maybe she goes like this too. And then I'm like, this is like kind of like flirting, right? So when we talk about unstructured FaceTime, there is a series of like, is this okay kind of signals. And you kind of slowly escalate, you make eye contact, you raise your glass, like whatever. And then what happens is like you walk over to them and then you introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Alok. I noticed that we were playing eye tag for a little while. I figured I'd just walk up and introduce myself because, hey, you're gorgeous. So like, does that kind of make sense? Like you kind of have this escalating thing. And I think that if you're trying to figure out who to ask out or who not.
Probably it sounds funny that this guy is actually giving this advice to you guys, but literally is a funny example of how relationships work. So I don't know. I think it doesn't need more explanation. You really need to pay attention to those cues that people usually gave you. Probably those cues are they are doing those cues intentionally but also unintentionally, so you really need to pay attention to that. But of course my main advice, it would be try to get used to have a no for an answer. It doesn't matter, dude, but do not insist if you're really sure that that person is not interested. And of course, there are a million tons of people out there. Honestly, you should. I'm really sure you're going to nail at least one of the 3 billion people and 3 billion women out there
To ask out. What I'll find when I work with my patients is that the ones that don't know how to do this basically strike out time and time and time again, because then they mechanically go to one person. They're like, hello, my name is Alok. I enjoy this, this, and this. Will you go on a date with me? I was told to shoot my shot, so here I am shooting my shot. I make my intentions clear and known, right? That doesn't work. So if y'all aren't doing this, this is a skill that you should practice. And I strongly recommend starting with people that you feel safe with. That doesn't have to be sexual, right? So like when I'm walking down the street, I will give dudes the bro nod. So even when I'm like at a coffee shop or something like that, I will like raise my cup in salute to a fellow man as like man pride. I see you, man, and I raise my cup. A salute to you for being a good human being. I also make small talk in elevators. So I think there are lots of ways that you can build this, but this is a core component. It is an empathic connection that begins and forms before you even talk to the person, okay? So you gotta play with affiliative signals. Second thing is we wanna ask people out where there is a safe environment. So if we look at what makes someone feel threatened, right? Because we don't wanna be part of that 20% that gets reported to HR. So that 20% usually makes people feel unsafe. So anytime you're trying to deal with someone in a romantic way, safety becomes incredibly important, okay? Unless they're traumatized or have a fetish or whatever, okay? But basically, safety becomes important. So you want to be in a place that is well populated, well lit, where there is an easy chance of escape, and that things are not going to be awkward the next day, right? So awkwardness is going to be like some amount of not feeling safe. So generally speaking, this means that like if I can approach a girl at a party, let's say, this is a place where she's there once, I'm there once. The party doesn't happen every.
Well, that also is an important thing. You need to have a plan B. A plan B. I don't mean to go and talk to other girl. I mean that if you get a no for an answer, what are you exactly going to do afterwards? If you're going to a party to try to see who the hell in the entire party wants to hook up with you, I'm really sure that you're wasting your time. Try to go to a party to have fun, and that should be your plan B. Have fun. Try to get along with everyone. Okay, so I'm not necessarily try to focus your attention on girls. Try to focus your attention on everyone. Try to be a social guy. Try to have conversations with everyone, and as he was saying, that try to make small talk with people on the elevators, try to make small talk on bars, but not necessarily with women, for God's sake, because you're also going to be more attracted to everyone if you have a lot of friends that, or if you have more experience talking with people in social, let's call this kind of a the social places, let's say. So pretty much I think that is the advice, the general advice for dating. Now I know it is different, I know it will be hard for everyone, but come on guys, just wake up earlier, work, try to study something, try to have a hobby, work out, that is really important, try to be a good looking dude. And I'm really sure if you've done your tasks, your homework correctly, I think you're going to end up being with someone. But also try to be exposed, try to go out there and be exposed to people, because of course if anyone knows you and you're the entire day in your house, probably you're going to have a really hard time meeting new people. So that's the entire video, my friends. That is the entire video. Probably I'm going to end up the stream here because I'm still having a lot of fucking things to do today. So it was good to talk about this topic, but I really need to focus on my work on my work. So see you guys. See you. Probably I will try to play something tomorrow, but I'm not really sure because